The advice pull who you like is the most common advice in Genshin Impact. After all, the most commonly asked question is something along the line of, who should I pull for? In my honest personal opinion though, this is a terrible advice. And no, I don't mean the advice itself. After all, the opposite of that would be pull who you don't like, and that wouldn't make any sense at all. What I'm referring to is the act of giving the advice, pull who you like, is a terrible advice to give out, as it doesn't provide you with any information to the reader and doesn't advance them in any way. Imagine opening the Steam sales page and asking your friends, what is the game that I should be playing? And your friend just tell you, just play what you like. Or going into a store and asking, which is a good phone to buy? And you just buy the phone you like. That's not particularly helpful. It also doesn't provide any new information that help you develop your decision-making process, which is most likely why one would bother asking the original stated question in the first place. Well, it is true that everyone have different preference when it comes to the character they prefer. One also doesn't have to give the most defining answers either. Anything that's not pull what you like could be good. And I'm not even talking about from a meta point of perspective. Although this is a primarily meta-focused channel, there are plenty of good answers that you can give without going depth into the meta. Take for example, a short sentence such as, I personally really like Yomiya. She is very cheerful and kind, but it's also very easy to play, just that she's not very strong. This provides the reader with free, simple, but unique information. A very quick basic insight into her personality. She's cheerful and cute, which the reader might or might not care. It's easy to play, give the reader a starting point about what kind of gameplay they can expect from the characters, and the final word is not very strong. Give a short indication of the character string or the meta. From there on, the reader can potentially decide if Yomiya might or might not be a character that they might be interested in, and if they are, then maybe they can do more research on the topic, perhaps like a 10-minute guide from Psyox, Sevi, or Broxophone. And if it doesn't sound interesting to them, then they would know that Yomiya isn't a great research topic right now. In either cases, you point them to a direction of where to start instead of just leaving them wandering around with pull who you like. Genshin Impact has been out for 2 years now with plenty of characters to choose from. Without the year of experience that experienced players have, they are gonna get tossed into a pool of 50 characters without knowing how each of them are different than the others in the slightest way. And it's very difficult to expect that they will read up on the character one by one, and that's probably the reason why people ask that question in the first place. Besides, you don't need to do that anyway, because the game will just naturally introduce you to all the characters over time through the main story quest, the Archon quest, and give you an overview of their personality and backstory. It is for that reason that, in my belief, most people probably ask that question seeking for some kind of gameplay advice, or maybe even like meta advice, because personality is something that should be left as an exercise to the original readers. And so going back to the original example, and advice that you can potentially give out is like, Zhongli could be a good character to pull if you're lazy or just value comfort, since he is a very big shield, but might not be useful if you're liking DPS for a bit. That's a short sentence that gives a lot of advice other than just pull you like. If you want to go straight for a meta advice, we can even go for something like, I would prefer Nahida because she is a very strong character that built many of the meta Danjo team like Hyper Bloom team. Or you can even just give the advice Jiangling. Why don't you try describing to me in the comment section below about a character that you would recommend to someone else, between personality, gameplay, and meta in perhaps 8 short sentences. I bet you can do it. And if the reader happen to somewhat care about character string, then it points them to a good place to start about where to do their research, instead of just tossing them into a pool of 50 plus characters not knowing what each of them does. They can instead start by just reading up about what Nahida does and learn about Hyper Bloom, because, well, you pointed them to there. And if they're still not interested after all of that, then at the very least you provided them with some amount of information and help them advance their decision-making process perhaps a little bit. And while one would argue information like that is not immediately useful, because in Genshin Impact the banners are rotated around, it doesn't have to be immediately useful either. You can kind of treat these as, hey, these are the characters to look out for in the futures, or maybe you should save your primo for these characters, so it isn't useless just because the characters' banner are rotating. In fact, since banner in Genshin Impact is rotated, it is from my experience that much more common for the reader to ask questions that target exactly toward the banner. Most people ask questions in the realm of, is Yelan a good pull? In this case, they're more likely to be looking for the pros and cons of said characters and potentially the pull values, rather than just hearing the answers of just pull for who you like. Again, you don't have to give the most meta answers. Yelan is a strong off-field DPS that performs really well when paired together with Xingqiu's or as a second Hydro enabler in your account. But she is also really nice for open world because of her elemental skill acting as a very fast traveling method that costs no stamina. That's right there is a short 2-sentence advice and give you a good idea of Yelan in general is a good character to pull for, and honestly it's fine. In all cases, there are just so much more way to answer the questions than just pull who you like, because it doesn't provide any information to the reader, and so that advice is utterly useless. I didn't necessarily make this video because of a recent Reddit post explaining about the topic. It has always been something that I wanted to talk about. But I would have to say, if you have to use 5 paragraphs to explain what the word pull who you like really mean, then perhaps that advice itself has been dysfunctional, and the spread of this terrible advice is exactly how you get people into thinking you can just put 4 random characters into a party and get away with it. Because, you know, that's it.